First Grasshopper tutorial. You have 4 examples for this assignment: point, system, adaptation, and parametric playground. The first 3 demonstrate a gradual development from simple to complex geometries. Be aware of those are example codes but not specifically doing something. Just giving you a broad perspective about mainly important Grasshopper components and their functions. On the other hand, fourth code, Parametric Playground, exemplifies constructing a specific design idea parametrically. Parts of those 3 codes are used to create a new definition, which you are expected to do so. In this video, I'm going to explain the Grasshopper interface, basic components, and how to create a Grasshopper definition. So first of all, let's open the Grasshopper plugin. Finding a command line here in your Mac computer, or if you're using a Windows computer, you will probably see the command line here somewhere. And just by writing Grasshopper, the Grasshopper plugin will open. So usually you will have an empty canvas workspace. So by just clicking here, you can search through your computer whichever Grasshopper definition you want to open. So in this case, point definition that's already open, but by clicking so, it will appear here. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Grasshopper interface. So here on the above, you see several component sets, the main component sets basically. So you have parameters, maths, sets, vector, curve, surface, mesh, etc. So once you click one of those main sets, then you will have subsets here, such as under maths tab you have domain, metrics, operators. When you go to the parameters main tab, then you will have subsets like geometry, components for geometric definitions, and etc. In each codes, you will have this green panels, and in these green panels, you will find relevant information and tips regarding to the code. So you can go through the code and then come a little bit closer. Let's say, now this is not very close. So for instance, there are tips regarding to the Grasshopper environment, how it works, about the components, etc., about the code in here. And you will have also some information. What is a Grasshopper component, how it works, what it does, etc. So you can, while you're using these codes, you can go through each of these tips and then have a better understanding of what is the environment and what is the code and components about. Okay, how to define a geometry in Grasshopper definition. So let's say I have an existing geometry on a Rhino. Let's say I have this point and I want to define this point into Grasshopper definition. So first of all, by double clicking on the canvas, you will open a searcher. So just by writing the name, if you know the name or sort of a keyword, to search through the components of Grasshopper. So then I see the point. So this is the component I'm looking for. So just by clicking enter, that I have the node, Grasshopper node or component, what you wanna call here. But you can also have look through all these tabs and then find the component you're looking for. And as you can see that when you just hover over the component, it will give you a small definition, contains a collection of 3-dimensional points. So it's sort of an idea you can have what this component does. So, okay, that I want to have. So just by clicking this and then dragging it to the Grasshopper canvas, that I will have the same component here. Right clicking. You will open this menu, and then what we want to do, we want to set one point in this component. So we just click on that, and then now Grasshopper is waiting for me to find the geometry that I want to set, so which is this point. I will have this point to be used in Grasshopper definition. So once we clicked on this, we will have this point is highlighted as green. So which means that it's now an active Grasshopper component, that we can reach this point and then change this point in the Grasshopper definition. So now that we have the point here, so if we want to see what exactly this point contains, we can just use the panel component and then see X, Y, Z coordinates of the point, and we can reach those coordinates by going to the vector tab, and then see there is this deconstruct a point. So this is another component. Left click and then just drag and plug to the other component. Now this component will give us the coordinates. So basically, a Grasshopper component has two parts, which is the input, which is this point, and then the outputs, which are just X, Y, Z coordinates. In this case, they are all numbers. If you want to use this X, Y, Z coordinates as inputs for another Grasshopper component, then you can just click here, drag, and then plug to the other component that you want to use. And another way to define a point, that we can actually parametrically define the point just in the Grasshopper, not using any Rhino geometry. So in this case, we will have exactly the X, Y, Z coordinates plugged into the point, but this time this point component is a bit different, since it doesn't contain just a collection of three-dimensional points, but it creates the point. So then we need to go to the vector tab and then find the point subgroup, which contains construct point component. So just click it and then have it on your Grasshopper canvas. Now that I have the point component here, that I want to give some definitions of the coordinates. So in this case, if I want to just change these parameters and see different results, that I can use slider. So just going to the parameters tab and then finding input. So there is number slider here. We can just choose from here, or again, remembering, double click on the canvas and then just, for instance, writing slider and then having it. So when you come and double click on this component, you will have this edit preference, and then you can see this either floating numbers or integers that you can use, or even odd numbers. So in this case, let's say that I want to use this, let's say, integers from 1 to, let's see, 10, or maybe 100. So I will have this set of numbers, and then by just Control C or Command C and V, just create 2 more of them, and then again plug these inputs to the point component. So another Grasshopper feature, that if I only want to see this generated geometry on Rhino, that I can use this feature. So I click here. It means that only the selected geometry will appear on your Rhino screen. That I will find my point here, and then just by changing the parameters, that I can define the position of my point. So when I click on the canvas, that I cannot see the point anymore, but now I can see. If I want to see the point or Grasshopper geometry all the time, that I just click this again and then disable that feature, and then I see all the generated geometry on my Rhino screen.